So I'm taking a look at the JVC website, and there appears to be a wealth of information for the professional VHS machine I was looking at earlier, the BR6400TR. The original price was $2,450, which was an awful lot of money back then. Let's do the old adjusted for inflation thing. So if we adjust for inflation, inflation calculator, let's say this was 1984, so $2,450. Same item now would cost $6,039.95, which is a lot of money. Still a lot of money. $2,450 is still quite a lot of money. $6,039 is an awful lot of money. So let's take a look at what is on the JVC website. So they have product overview, records PAL and CCAM formats. It will play back PAL, CCAM and NTSC 4.43. Fully direct drive, front loading. It's also rack mountable. It has 4 heads. Doesn't mention anything about long play, so I don't know if it's using those 4 heads for playback. It certainly didn't seem to be using them for pause or the search facility. Although I don't know, I suppose it may have been using search. Using it for the search facility, I'm not sure. 2-channel Dolby audio, tracking meter, auto rewind, auto repeat, and electronic real-time counter. Technical description gives us a whole interesting series of description for this particular deck, or descriptions rather. The TR was actually, looks like it was an advancement of a previous model, the 6400U. So it has direct drive reel servos, capstan and head drum, die-cast aluminium chassis, front loading, rack mountable. Here you go, 4 heads, 2 for record playback, 2 for special effects. 10 times shuttle, variable speed with remote control, so you need the remote control if you want to have the variable speed, and I guess also trick functionality. External sync capability for time-based correction connection. 2-channel audio with Dolby noise reduction, electronic tape counter with lap timer, auto repeat, rewind, tracking meter, random access option, and many more features. So the accessories that you could have with it, you could have that special cable, the random access control, the wired remote, the wireless remote, and a PCM digital audio processor. That's pretty cool. So it might be worth actually me taking note of these model numbers and checking eBay to see if we can actually get some of these options. The PCM adapter seems very interesting. So that'll be a bit like the PCM, sort of similar sort of concept to the PCM adapter for the Sony SL-F1. So now we have this case history. So this basically seems to consist of a number of almost sort of case studies. So it's press releases and seems to sort of cover their choice of this particular machine for their particular professional requirements. So they plan to install a CR5550 3/4-inch video cassette recorder, which I think is the U-matic deck, as a master, and BR6400U, which is the model before mine, VHS VCRs for playback testing, as well as a medium resolution 750 line monitor at the location. And then it goes on, Bob Skidmore has been JVC dealer for 11 years and has witnessed the growth of the VHS market, promoting the products over the past decade. Knowing JVC's expertise in that format, we no longer carry any competitive brands, and it was the logical and best decision to make to use the JVC VHS hi-fi duplicators. Interesting. So I don't think my one is a hi-fi machine, but I don't know. I don't think it is. Another press release here. This was 5/30/85. That would be the 30th of May 1985. So, president of CineEffects Videotape Division. So that's a Manhattan-based duplicating facility. And oh blimey, in their dubbing room they had 35 BR6400U VHS recorders and a CR6060U 3¼ inch recorder. That's a lot of hardware. So advanced post-production takes cue from JVC. So this one was another example where these machines were used. So yeah, certainly that's very interesting. Videographer adds Hollywood touch to weddings. What was this about? This was another press release. And they've used a CR850U, BR6400U, and a BR8600, and it was used by TV Weddings Co. So these machines would make up the sort of the cornerstone of an editing suite, as I was saying on the, or as I go on to say in the video a bit later. That is interesting. And this one, another press release. So they spent, so that's $40,000. Oh, I see. So that's how much one of their productions would cost. And that is interesting. And that was for a company called Finn Productions. Good afternoon, and welcome to this interesting project. So what we have here is I don't know if you call it semi-professional or professional, early 1980s JVC VHS deck. So here's the front of it, as you can see. No consumer grade function, so no multi-function timer, etc., but it does have all of the functions you'd expect from a semi-pro deck. Audio dub, various facilities, various input facilities. As you can see from the back, we have many inputs, including a number of professional inputs as well, and an RF out, funnily enough, which is nice. So it will connect to a standard television set. I'm led to believe that this particular deck saw service in TVS, which was an old ITV region, Television South. So I've tested the unit, and although it accepts and loads a cassette, it does not actually play the cassette. So I've got a feeling that we're going to need to give it a basic deck service. So let's get the cover off and have a look inside. So there's a couple of thumb screws holding the cover on. And inside we can immediately see some things which are sort of quite familiar. We have the belt loading, the chain loading front loading cradle here, which you see on the other JVC machines of this era and the clones. We have a 4-head head drum, which I think is exactly the same part number as the one used in the Ferguson 3V32, the JVC HR 7955, the ITT 8324. I've got one upstairs, anyway, that one. The boards all seem to plug into a main board at the bottom, or some of them do anyway, and they seem to have been laid out in this sort of particular format for easy replacement. So it's literally sort of undo a couple of screws, and if we have a look, yeah, undo a couple of screws, out comes the board, again for ease of servicing. Now, the one thing that I am having some queries about is how I'm actually going to get in to service the deck itself. So the deck seems to be sort of like a mishmash rather of consumer related decks and obviously sort of the professional sort of related series of decks as well. So I think the first thing we need to do is to get this opened up underneath and see if there are indeed any belts that we can replace. So we'll have to flip the machine upside down like so. Check that we're still in focus. Bring the machine there a bit and check we're still in focus, which we are. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. So let's grab a toolkit. This would have also had some feet on it at some point as well. I may actually have some spare feet which I can put back onto it, which will mean that these vents are kept clear. So I don't want to run the machine for too long with the vents not properly uncovered. So let's start with this one. I've got a feeling there is going to be a lot, because it's a semi-pro slash, well, actually it's a professional deck. I've got a feeling that we're going to have a number of motors controlling the majority of deck functions. So instead of a couple of motors doing everything, we're probably going to have direct drive on a lot of these. That seems to have been filled up with something, I'm not sure what. But we are able to remove it. This one's also got some stuff in it as well. With a bit of pressure we can get that off. There we go. And what we should now find, bear in mind I've never taken one of these apart before, is that the cover comes off. So we have this circuit board on the bottom, which is, blimey, there's another circuit board going onto that as well, so this will be interesting. We've got this board here, which seems to be the sort of the main, the motherboard. It actually is labelled motherboard PWB assembly. This is where all of those daughter boards slot into it. Those are the boards that we were looking at earlier, which can be removed very quickly should you need to. We have this very large motor here, which I think is possibly the capstan motor, which means that we're probably looking at a lot of direct drive action in this machine. Now, what I want to do is see if there is a way to get this deck off, or rather get this board out, and see if there is a way we can do that. So it looks like we've got 1, 2 there. So it looks like here we've got plastic notch in there, another plastic notch there. I'm wondering if we undo number 1 and number 2, if this will do the traditional slide back and come out. So if we slide it back, actually no, indeed slide it up and across, and actually release the tension on that wire here. What we should find is this whole board, if we look on the other side, should come up quite nicely. So this is a very interesting machine. We've got 1, 2, 3, in total 4 motors. So we've got 1 motor here for the capstan, we have 1 motor for one of the spools, 1 motor for the other spool, so, and obviously the head motor. So we effectively have a direct drive machine. This motor here, which I'm just spinning around gently, is very similar to the consumer decks. That is the load-in motor. So what I'm going to do, grab a power cable, pop a cassette in and see if it is that load motor that's slipping, because if it is, this could be quite a simple job to replace that. So it uses, I think it's IEC power leads, also known as kettle leads. Don't really like running machines upside down, but needs must. Power on the front. Does the normal cycling. There's no standby on this, it literally is power on or power off. Use this nice white cassette, which we will just doesn't like that at all actually. Let's put this gently back down. So put this one in, down and in. Turn it so we are on the vertical. Retrieve the cassette, and I need to power off, power on, let the deck reset. That's very unhappy. Right, that might do it. There she goes. There she doesn't. Oh, hang on a minute. cover the area there. Right, tape is in. If we hit play, capstan is spinning. Oh. Okay. That's embarrassing and also quite fortuitous. Changes the scope of the video somewhat because I was advised that this may need some work. However, on initial investigations, literally just now, put the tape in, press play, tape laces, machine works. That's really good news, actually. I'm quite surprised. Right, let's power it off and let's put it back together. So, need to be a bit careful with that one because we've had it dislodged. However, on the plus side, it is nice to see inside one of these machines. Now, direct drive for everything. The only consumer decks I know that have direct drive for the whole lot, there are many, but the only ones that I know of personally are the Sony SL-F1, which is portable, very advanced portable, because you could actually plug in a module that would convert audio, so it was a PCM converter, and use the video heads to actually record CD quality audio. And the Sony SLC9UB, which was a very advanced stereo deck from the early 1980s. The C9 commands a premium. The F1, of which I've got 2 examples upstairs, doesn't command as large a premium, unfortunately, even though it is a very nice deck and a very pretty little portable deck. And this is quite unusual in the fact that we do seem to have this whole semi-pro layout. Very advanced indeed. In fact, it's not semi-pro, it's professional. I keep saying semi-pro when it's actually professional. So, let's whip the cover back on. So put this one back on. This uncovers the deck assembly itself. Let's think. Was it like, yeah, it's like that. So let's pop. Let's pop these 6 screws back in. What's lovely about these professional series machines is they were built with end user servicing in mind. They weren't built to be thrown away when something went wrong. They were basically built to be repaired if something went wrong. But with that sort of practicality does come cost, and I'm not sure how much this would have cost when it was new. This is the BR 6400TR. There's no date markings on it, but I would guess, looking at the mechanism and the head assembly, 1983 to 1984. So we are looking at a pretty advanced piece of technology for the early 1980s. Machines like this may have been used for duplication purposes. In this case, this was probably used in conjunction with a high quality VHS camera for outside broadcast work. You also saw these sort of machines in editing suites throughout the 1980s and early 90s. I remember going to an editing suite with my dad, who was his name's Malcolm Cocktailor. He was a lighting cameraman, and it was one of these decks connected to a U-matic machine that copied a load of his original U-matic copies of adverts that he had basically direct and lit, and basically dropped all of those U-matic cassettes onto a single VHS cassette, which would then serve as his show reel. And it was one of these sort of machines that did it. Probably because the studio itself seemed to be a Sony house, it probably had, if I remember rightly, had a load of Sony VHS semi-pro machines like that, professional machines like this. Obviously with Sony badging on. But these JVC ones were, you know, were sort of quite common in the industry at the time, from what I understand. Anyway, let's see if we can do something about these feet. So I've got my very battered ice cream tub here that I need to replace. Sooner rather than later, actually. Let's see if we can find something to replace that. So I've got here my ice cream tub that I've had for many years. It's not this one that I originally showed you, honest. With various bits and pieces inside, which may come in use at some point, including, it would appear, some cat food that seems to have made its way in there. So we've got a spare capstan, sort of spare, well actually a spare capstan assembly, which is a bit broken there, but that can be resoldered. Number of pinch rollers, but the most important thing is we have these feet. I'm hoping I've got another 3. 1, so 2, 3, 4. So I've got 4 of these. Let's see if we can make them fit. A couple of pinch rollers, some metal bar from something. Really not sure what that is. Maybe wax. Certainly feels waxy. PlayStation 3, I think. To phono. And whatever that was is, I'm really not sure. I'm sure it is for something that I have, and it's become separated from the main kit. I think it may have been a dent puller or something like that. So let's see if, using these standard screws that these have got, if these actually fit. And as if by magic, yes, they do. I have a feeling that these feet come from a Ferguson 3V23 that I broke up for spares. There were too many problems with that particular deck to actually do anything with. If it had just been the soundboard, I would have had a look at repairing the actual soundboard itself, but it seemed to have more problems than just the soundboard. Whenever I take anything apart, I always try to keep as many spares as possible. Doesn't mean you consume space, but when it's small things like this, it makes a lot of sense, because we now have a selection of feet on this deck. So we've got these rear feet here, which obviously allow you to stand it upright for storage purposes, but we now have a selection of feet underneath, which give us a nice bit of room underneath for airflow purposes. Right, let's do the old standard bit of grease on the loading mechanism. So, a little blob of grease there, and a blob of grease here. That should be enough, I think. Right, let's get that power cable. Bring that round the back. There we go. There we go, that's cycle. Let's put the lid on it. And pop in the cassette we were using earlier. Hit play. So it seems to be playing. It's also fast forwarding as well. So we're set to PAL at the moment, audio monitor, channel 1, audio channel 2, Dolby noise reduction seems to work, and the switch does anyway, input line or TV, pause button doesn't work, which is interesting. Neither does the fast forward or rewind shuttle search. I wonder if there is. So video is colour. So we've got this pull meter for tracking, which is interesting, which will show you it on the meter on the front. That doesn't seem to do anything, so I'm not sure if it's dead or not. So take the cover off. It does seem to be playing. Let's do the fast forward. Definitely fast forwarding. So let's play again. It's lacing nicely. Definite playback. And now we seem to have that. Okay. And as if by magic, we seem to have activity on these VU meters on the front. So if I pull this one out, God, that's cool. I'm going to bring the camera down here to show this off. So, if we have a look at the front, obviously making sure that the camera legs are in a state where they'll support the tripod. Tripod legs rather, not camera legs. So at the moment this is pulled out for tracking purposes. So rotate it that way, rotate it there, rotate it that way, push it back in, and you've got channel 1 and 2, so you can do audio monitor, just channel 1. Actually that might be for recording purposes. Put Dolby on. Doesn't seem to reduce that substantially. Pause now works as well, which is interesting. So let's hit stop a second. Let's pop the lid back on. That's probably because the light interfered with the sensors on the side. The optical sensors. Screw the cover back in and let's hook it up to the television. So just trying to screws. Ah. So there's one. There's the other. There we go. Okay, let's. Oh, that is a heavy beast. Right, let's get this plugged into the TV. So we've got a range of outputs that we can use, but we are going to use RF out to keep it simple. So I'll get this tuned in and we'll be back shortly. So I've got it tuned in and we are currently watching this film here. I've turned the audio off so we don't get one of those dreaded YouTube matches rather, but it is a film about Dalmatians, the one where Cruella de Vil drives a Panther de Vil two-door, which is quite nice. It's basically a rather nice coach-built car with Jaguar XJ12 running gear, quite special. Oliver Reed had one, although he had a four-door, and the doors, certainly on the four-door model, were taken off of an Austin Maxi /1800/2200, often referred to as those doors because they appeared on a number of vehicles throughout the time when those cars were current. Anyway, back to this VHS deck. The quality, and this is over RF, is superb. I cannot really sort of say. I cannot say anything else about it. It's one of the best reproductions from a VHS deck I've ever seen, which you would expect at the price bracket that this machine probably was. So let's try a pause. Obviously a two-head pause. The four heads are probably there for long play material. There's no slow motion or anything like that, but I wouldn't expect that on this particular machine. Let's try a fast forward search, which is very good, surprisingly noise free. And because you've got the direct motor drive, it's instantaneous between deck functions. There's no sort of pause whatsoever. Just realised this is actually catching a lot of shadow, so hoping that this will give us a slightly better picture, which, yeah, seems to be. If we hit the audio briefly, a little bit muffled, but that might just be down to dirty audio heads. But also, I may have left the. No, I haven't. I thought I'd left the noise reduction function on for a second. But on the whole, this is producing a very, very nice picture. So if we pull that tracking meter again we were looking at earlier, let's see what. Obviously, I'll adjust the tracking. So that is fully to the right. Central. Fully to the left doesn't seem to actually do anything on this particular tape, whereas fully right does. So these machines would tend to be calibrated once a year or so if they were used in a professional environment, which this one was. So I've got a video system switch on the front, which obviously isn't doing anything because we are using PAL. But one other nice feature about this machine, which is quite unusual, I suppose not really for a professional serious machine, is it will accept CCAM and NTSC inputs, which is quite handy. It will also play back CCAM and NTSC recorded cassettes as well, which is also, again, rather handy. Now, judging by the difference on these VU meters, I'm wondering if this cassette is recorded in both hi-fi and linear stereo. I didn't think they'd actually continued recording linear audio tracks after hi-fi became a really big thing, but you never know. Right, let's have a look at the front of the machine again, which is here. And it is in that sort of way that a lot of the JVC clones were, functional yet oddly handsome at the same time. I mean, this is a rather nice looking deck. Anyway, that is pretty much it for today. This is a lot shorter than I thought it would be, because I thought we would be having to replace belts, etc. But I should have realised that being a professional machine, everything was going to be, the whole deck was going to be driven by various DC motors. So if you have found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, and also consider subscribing for more upcoming fascinating hobbies. Thanks for watching.